Hey YouTube, this is Tom at TM Aquatics and I hope everyone's doing great. Purpose of today's video is going to be pretty straightforward and to the point. I have three objectives I want to accomplish in today's video. Number one, I want to give everybody a quick update on the 3 new 60 breeders that I added and showcased in last week's video. Number two, I want to answer some questions that I received following last week's video, not just through the YouTube platform, but also through Instagram and Facebook. Now, I'm not going to be answering every question. I'm just going to be answering those questions that were asked numerous times, the same question by several people. And then third, I just want to make an announcement that it finally looks like there's some decent weather coming to Minnesota next week. So it looks like there's going to be a window of opportunity to ship some fish. So I've gone ahead and I've opened up my storefront on the Get Gills platform. I've listed a few of the fish on there. I'll be shipping early next week, but do keep in mind that if the weather turns south here in Minnesota, everything will be removed. The storefront will be closed again, but right now it's open and I have plans to ship next Monday and Tuesday. With that being said, a couple species have already sold out, so if you're looking for some of the fish that I have available here, you might want to check out the TM Aquatics storefront on the Get Gills marketplace. So anyways, I do hope everyone sticks around and checks this out. All right, YouTube, we're going to head over here to those 3 new 60 breeders. And here they are in their glory. And I'm really excited to have these up and running, to have fish in all 3 of them. And it just made me realize how overcrowded some of my tanks were now that these are all set up and the fish have been moved in. On this top tank, that's where I moved my big group of L260 Queen Arabesque Plecos. There's a total of 29 fish in here right now. Now they're still subadults, they are not sexually mature, so they're still growing out, and 29 in my opinion is too many. So my plans are to eventually reduce that group size down to maybe 18 or 20 fish at most. And I don't know what I'll do with the extras. I might sell them as adult sexed L260s. I might start a second colony with them. I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. We're a ways away from that, so nothing I've put too much thought into at this point, but they're all doing fantastic. In this second tank or middle tank, this is where I moved in all the Corydoras Orange Venezuelan or Corydoras Venezuelanus, bunch of grow outs from this year. All of those were jam-packed in a bunch of these 10-gallon tanks here. And once I got all of these Corydoras Venezuelanus moved into the 60 breeder, it made me realize how overpacked and overpopulated those 10-gallon tanks were. But these fish are just enjoying life right now. They've got plenty of elbow space and they're doing great. And then down below, this is where I have a bunch of Scleromystax barbatus. And I think I showed those. I did have those in last week's video. Now some people might be wondering, how did I get fish moved into these tanks so quick? Don't you need to wait 6 to 8 weeks for the tank to cycle? Well, this is not my first rodeo, and I always have a bunch of extra sponge filters that are already seeded with biological bacteria. I keep them in my big sump filter out on the 120-gallon tank. I also always have a bunch of extra bags of biological filter media with ceramic media in it, and those are also shoved in my big sump filter out in the rec room, the 120-gallon tank. So I just take a bag of biological media, I toss it into the Tidal 75s, I take a couple of those sponge filters, I plop them in here. I'll take a sponge filter, an existing sponge filter, out of an existing tank and squeeze it into the new tanks as well, just to make sure that it's getting plenty of biological bacteria. And I will wait a day or two, test the waters, make sure everything's going great, and then I add the fish. Now, since adding the fish, I've been testing all of the tanks at least twice a day. I test the water in the morning, I test the water in the evening, and so far there's not even been a hint of ammonia or nitrite. So everything's good, but I will still watch these very, very closely over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But we're in good shape, nothing to worry about. So anyways, that's an update on the new 60 breeders here at TM Aquatics. Now, something else that I've done since last week's video and since moving out all of those Corydoras Venezuelanus into the 60 breeder is I was able to go through all of these 10-gallon grow outs here and sort the Corydoras. Except for this very, very far right tank, that's where I have the last group of Corydoras that I'm growing out this breeding season. And it looks like I have in there maybe some CW49s, some Corydoras duplicarius. There might be some Kanakis in there, and possibly a couple more Corydoras bozemanii, but I'm not sure. But in this tank here, this is all the Corydoras duplicarius. In this tank here, this is all the CW49s. These are all green lasers. Corydoras Kanakis. More green lasers. And then over here, the most disappointing part of this breeding season, the Corydoras axelrodi and the Corydoras bozemanii. I thought I had a lot more than I did, but when I got it all sorted out, really not too many of either one, and that's a big disappointment. Now, that's not all the Corydoras that we're growing out. We have Corydoras bozemanii and orange Venezuelan is here, more green lasers over here, more green lasers over here, orange lasers and more Kanaki over there. But it is nice to have everything sorted out so I have a much better idea on the quantities when it comes time to listing and selling and so forth. So that is a change from last week's video as well. Alright YouTube, another change that we've made since last week's video, down here with this 29 gallon and this 40 breeder. This 40 breeder is where I had my group of L260 Queen Arabesque Plecos, and we already saw that they were moved into one of the new 60 breeders. So what I was able to do then is free this tank up and move in my Corydoras Schultzii Black. Now in last week's video I only had 10 of them. In this week's video I now have 17. So we had a fish club auction going on last week. Actually our fish club has decided to move to online auctions, which I'm not a big fan of, but that's a whole another matter. But there was some Corydoras Black Schultzii in that auction, and I was able to pick up a bag of 6 for $31, which is an absolute bargain. And that bag of 6 actually turned into a bag of 7. So I am really excited to add these extra 7 youngsters into the mix. Now the original 10 that I had were over here in this 29 with my Corydoras Weitzmanni. And when I tore this tank down and moved the Corydoras Blacks out, I was able to sex them. And the original 10 that I had, there were 4 females and 6 males, which is a decent ratio. We can work with that. Personally, I'd rather have 7 males and 3 females, but 4 and 6, not too bad. And then adding those extra 7 in there, that's just icing on the cake. So anyways, really excited to have these fish in a tank by themselves. And then that obviously created more space for the Corydoras Weitzmanni. And in fact, it was kind of strange when I had the blacks over here with the Weitzmanni hardly ever came out. And you can see they're out swimming about doing their thing, and they've got a lot more elbow space now too. So everybody wins. So another change from last week. Just wanted to give everybody a quick update on that. Alright YouTube, now a couple of questions that I keep receiving from people, and I've never really answered it through a video, so I want to take a moment and just answer this question through the video, and hopefully those that are interested get the answer they've been looking for, because like I said, it's probably one of the most frequently asked questions that I get. And not that I'm tired of responding and corresponding with people via email and Instagram and Facebook Messenger and whatever, but I get asked a lot, what is it that I use to separate all the caves in my tanks? I have a couple things that I use. Now down here you can see that's a slate tile. It's a natural slate tile, and I used to buy these at Menards. They are no longer selling this tile, and I think this tile was 6 inches by 18 or 6 by 20. They no longer sell these natural slate tiles, so I've had to move to a porcelain tile, and these are a 6 by 24, just a regular flooring porcelain tile. And I choose the style that has kind of a wood grain on there to make it look a little more natural. But that's all that is. This particular tile, $2.04 a piece. It just allows you to stack these caves on top of one another. They're cheap, they're effective, they're aquarium safe, no issue. So I just want to make sure that I answer that question, and hopefully those that were curious finally have the answer. If time allows and if I remember, maybe I'll post the link to the Menards website page that will take you straight to this particular tile. Now another question that I get is, where do I buy my caves? Now 99% of the Pleco caves I have here in my fish room came from plecocaves.com. And I buy them from plecocaves.com for a few reasons. Number one, they're probably the largest Pleco cave manufacturer and distributor and seller in the United States. But they're inexpensive, averaging about $5.50 for the size of caves that I buy. But they also offer all different types of shape and sizes, so you can mix and match based on, you know, what your personal taste is, what you think your fish might like, and the size of fish that you actually keep. So all my caves come from plecocaves.com, so go ahead and check out plecocaves.com when time allows. I should note I am not a sponsor, I'm not endorsed, I don't receive a discount, nothing like that. So just doing my goodwill here and answer the question on where I get my Pleco caves from. Now another question that I get asked quite frequently is your fish room set up on automatic water change system? The answer to that is some tanks are, most tanks are not. And there's reasons for that. Number one, most of my breeding tanks are not set up on automatic water change system because my tap water would not be conducive to long-term success for breeding Corydoras and Plecos. Our tap water here is about 8.4 with about 450 TDS, which is a little bit too high if you really want to have long-term sustained success breeding the types of fish that I do. So I like to cut my tap water with RO at about a 3-to-1 ratio. Now when it comes to automatic water change, over here these 5 tanks are on an auto water change that receive pure tap water. These are grow-out tanks. I'm not breeding in these tanks, so these fish will all do fantastic in this tap water without any issues. But these tanks are all on auto water change system. This grow-out tank here and these 275s, along with the 120-gallon tank out in the rec room, those are all on auto water change systems as well. Now these 3 particular tanks all have 2 lines coming in. And I use this 1/4-inch drip irrigation line, as you can see, and half a gallon per hour drip emitters. So these tanks have 2 lines coming in. One line is fed straight from my RO reservoir through a booster pump. And then the other line comes straight from the faucet through the timer and is connected to the same lines that these 5 grow-outs are on. So these tanks are getting both tap water and RO, and it's coming in again at about a 3-to-1 ratio, so I get that nice 150 TDS, which is the goal that I shoot for in all my breeding tanks. I like to keep the TDS in that 125 to 150 range. But those are all on auto water change system. The rest are all on manual water change. But it doesn't take long to do a water change here because the system or the method that I'm using for water changes. So let's go take a look at that real quick, and we'll show you how quick and demonstrate how quick we can do a water change here. So over here I have 2 brute cans that both have water in them. This brute can has 100% RO water in it. This can over here has RO water mixed with tap water to the TDS that I like to put or keep my tanks at. And again, I like my tanks to all stay, the breeding tanks, I like to keep the TDS at about 150. That works out well for the Plecos and the Corydoras. So I'm cutting the tap water, mix it in here with RO till I reach the desired TDS. Now, if some of the tanks that I have, if their TDS has increased to like 175, then I'll do a 50% water change and I'll have TDS coming out of this reservoir at about 125. So I adjust the TDS in this a little bit based on the tanks that I'm changing out. So anyways, water's mixed in here. I like to age it when possible, and it's heated to the desired temperature that I need it based on whether it's going into a zebra Pleco tank or a Corydoras tank. And then in here, I have a Siche, I forget how you say it, Sicce, S-I-C-C-E. I have a Sicce pump. I believe this pump does 1,450 gallons per hour. I put it on this real heavy duty nylon hose. Not real flexible, but I don't have to worry about it bursting. And this is a 3/4 inch inside diameter hose, so it allows for a nice quick flow. And then just a DIY PVC output with a ball valve on so I can slow down the water, turn the water off, etc. That's what I use to pump water back into tanks. And what I like to drain the tanks with is this here. Again, just a PVC. Now this is kind of, you know, bush fixed here, just electrical tape, because the silicone didn't hold this Aqua Clear 70 tube onto this piece of 3/4 inch PVC real well. So, but I got this cut and adjusted at the height that I like for most of my tanks. I have a ball valve on there as well, and then I use this pond hose here. Now this is also 3/4 inch inside diameter, so it allows for a nice fast flow. And what I like about this is this hose is extremely flexible, but it's not very durable. I don't want to use this hose and put pressure in here. So when I'm using it just to drain the tanks, there's no pressure on the outside walls of this hose, so it works real well. I think a 20 or 25 foot piece of this at Home Depot is like $20, but it's real light, easy to move around, flexible, and it works out well. So I drain the tank with this, I fill the tank with that, and it really only takes me a few minutes per tank, and that's how we get through our water changes. So I thought what I'd do real quick is demonstrate. It's water change day today, actually, so I thought I'd start out here with this top 40 breeder, do a 50% water change. This is where I have L174 and L471s growing out, and I thought I would time it to show you how quick this setup allows me to do an average water change. So let's get this thing set up real quick. We'll kick off the timer and fast forward and see how long it takes. All right, YouTube, we have the water change lines here ready to go. You can see I have the ball valves on both the drain and the refill shut off. This hose has been primed, so all I need to do is turn that ball valve on, and it's going to drain right down there into my floor drain. Now, I need to throttle this down a little bit to control the amount of water coming out, otherwise it splashes all around. But we'll go over here and start that. Open this up. And we'll just sit back and watch how quickly this can be done. Ah, what the heck. Let's crank her open. Alright YouTube, well there you have it, 50% water change on that 40 breeder. Took less than 6 minutes to do. Now one note, because this is the top tank on the rack, the output coming out of here is restricted due to the head pressure. The flow coming out of there and the time water changes take on the middle tank and especially the lower tank, the time it takes will be significantly reduced, because as we come down, that height of the head pressure is reduced and reduced, so the flow is increased and increased. So that's how long it takes, and I do 3 or 4 tanks per day on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So less than a half an hour-ish for water changes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that's about it. I know these things over here are real popular, these pythons, but the problem, even though they have a wonderful hose that's nice and flexible, doesn't kink or knot or anything like that, the problem with these is they're so terribly slow because the inside diameter, I don't know if it's 3/8 or 1/2 inch, but it just doesn't allow for enough water flow for me, so it just takes way too long. This thing here has cut the amount of time I spend on water changes by over half. So anyways, hopefully I was able to give some people some ideas or share some tips. With that being said, let's go ahead and wrap this video up. Alright YouTube, a real important note, and to clarify a little bit here on the water changes and what I just said and presented was actually a little bit incorrect and misleading, because normally as I'm filling the first tank, the second tank is already being drained. By the time the first tank is filled up, the second tank is ready to be filled. By the time this tank is filled, this tank's already been drained and it's ready to be filled. So really you're looking at less than 20 minutes to do 50% water changes on all 3 of these tanks over here. So just to give you a better idea on the process that I use here, I just wanted to clarify that, because my demonstration I only drained and refilled 1 tank rather than doing the entire rack. So hopefully that makes sense. Alright YouTube, well there you have it, just a real quick update on the 60 breeders and some of the fish being moved around here at TM Aquatics, and then hopefully I've been able to answer some questions on water changes, what I'm using to stack Pleco caves, and where I'm getting the Pleco caves. So anyways, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your day to watch one of my videos. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to post them down below and I'll do my best to answer when time allows. With that being said, hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, and until the next one, we'll catch y'all later.